Welcome back to Retro Depot. I'm Doug. Today we're going to be taking a look at the GQ-4X, and this is actually the GQ-4x4 EEPROM programmer. Now this is a universal USB programmer that's released by GQ Electronics. It's the, evolution of the Willem EEPROM programmer, which used to be a parallel port programmer. And it has several features that are really interesting. First off, it's got a huge device list that it supports. It can support 16-bit devices as well as flash devices and several other different types of devices. And it does so through these adapters. This one is one for a SOP44. This is a 16-bit EEPROM programmer, and also has a couple other little adapters here for some PLCC adapters, or flash devices, that is. So it's a really neat programmer. It does have its lacking features in certain areas, and I just wanted to demonstrate this for the average person looking for about a mid-range programmer. So let's take a look at the software. So this is the software for the GQ-4X made by GQ Electronics, and the software is actually pretty good. It has lots of options. For example, you can go to the device list. You can actually request new devices. You have several things here that you can do on most programmers. For example, read, write, blank check, get the ID, verify, do a byte swap. You can do scripts. It does have a way to detect the hardware. If you actually detect it, it does detect it fine. It can also test the hardware, so it comes up with this little screen, and you can set these bits, and don't know if you can hear that or not, but it works. It's a good way to diagnose problems that you might be having with the hardware itself. You can actually check to make sure it's a genuine device, and it's got various different settings. Now if we look at devices, it has lots of things here. For example, EEPROMs, EEPROMs, CPUs, it's got serial EEPROMs, SRAM, CPLDs, and generic array logic devices. So for an example, if we look here, it has everything from Atmel to Philips. So if we, for example, go to microchip, we can see it's got all the classic stuff here. For example, the PIC 12F629, nice little 8-pin chip there, and it also has everything up to the PIC 18 LF series. Now serial EEPROM, all the standard stuff here. The 24C series. Pretty much, if you can think of it, it's going to be supported by this device. The interesting thing about this device, though, is that it does actually have 16-bit support. So for an example, it can do the 27C 322 or the 27C 160. It can also do the MXL 3211, supposedly. I'll get into that more here in a few minutes. But it can also do the 29F devices and things of that nature that you're going to see with a lot of, newer, boards and things like that. So there are some options with this. Now, having said that, it does have its flaws in a couple areas. For example, with the software, it's either the software or the adapter itself for the 29L 3211 MC. This is actually, I don't know if it's the board or if it's actually the software, but it's garbage. And by that, I mean they charge you $48 for the board plus shipping. And whenever I say it's a small board, it is a very small board. The actual board in question would be this board here. And of course, on this particular variant, they are going to charge you $45 US. By the time you get it shipped, it's $48. But if you buy it off their eBay store, they charge you $48 and then still charge you shipping. So they're actually trying to make a little bit more money on the eBay store. But if we take a look at it, it would seem like it would work. It says set it to 5 volt, and that's correct for this particular chip. It does require a programming voltage of 5 volts, and then a logic level for all the pins at I believe it's 3.3 or 3.6 volts. But here's an example of whenever I try to write a binary file to one of these devices. As you can see, the device assumingly wrote OK. It did an ID check and it was OK, and then it verified it and it failed on the very first address. And then I tried it again with a different chip, and it wrote OK. It verified the ID, and then it went to check the buffer, and it failed on what is that, the 256th address. And then I tried it again with yet another chip, and it did the same thing, only this time around, whenever it went to verify it, it said, let me see here, yeah, it failed again at address 0100. Now mind you, these are several different chips from several different manufacturers, and having said that, that tells me that there's either a problem with the software or there's a problem with the board, and there's no reason why they should be selling boards for $50 when they don't work. Now, having said that, so far that is the only problem that I've found with this device. The rest of the board seems to work as normal, at least for the items that I use it for. Now, I don't really use it with your run-of-the-mill stuff like the 28C256 or the 27C, 256 or 512 or 64. Those kind of things, they program just fine with my TL866, which is the Mini Pro, and I'm going to do another video on that at a later time, but those all program fine. I don't use that for this. The primary reason why I have this programmer is for the purpose of the 16-bit EEPROMs and the devices similar to the MX29L3211. The problem with it is obviously if that doesn't work, that's $50 for nothing. Now, I did contact customer support and I reported the issue to them, but it was lacking at best. To be honest with you, I sent them a detailed description of what I was experiencing along with my programmer, the software, pretty much everything that you can think of as far as the specs of my system, and kind of the troubleshooting that I have done on my end. And my response was, what programmer do you, or what adapter do you have? So I said, I do in fact have the right adapter. I've got version 4.1, in which version 4.0 and up is required for this. See, you can see it right there. And they said, okay, well, it'll erase the chip and it will read the data, so obviously it's the right adapter. I said, yeah. And then they said, what is the how did they put that? What is it, or does it verify after writing? And literally in my description of the first email that I sent them, it said it will not verify. All of the data is corrupted whenever it does, which tells me that there's a problem with it. And what I suspect is the problem is the voltage going to the PP pin, or the programming voltage pin. I suspect that it's got a mismatch. Now, having said that, that's just an assumption. It could also be a problem with the logic, the algorithm that they use to actually write to this device, because it is a very non-standard device. There's not that many that use this particular pinout or that have the requirements specific to this particular chip. But it's obviously a problem, and it's something that they need to get sorted out. Now, whenever it comes to the other devices, for example, the 27C322 and the 27C160, those devices actually work pretty well. I haven't had any problem with those devices at all. So, it is what it is. They write well. The only problem that I've had is that those devices, they're getting a little bit more scarce. You can still find them, but the problem with them is that a lot of times they're from the used market and they may or may not be of quality. A lot of times I've found that these devices tend not to program very well, or they have a very short lifespan when it comes to write and erase cycles. So that's it for the software portion of this. I want to take a look at the website now and some of the different adapters that they can offer. So here's the website, and of course if we take a look at the store, they sell many different products. For example, they have the GQ-4x version 4 here. This particular version they offer for about $98 on their website, or you can get a version with some of the adapters for $123 US. They also have a NAND flash programmer, which is kind of a neat little device. If we take a look at it, I'm not really sure, why you necessarily need just this, but it does, program the TSOP 48. But it seems like it's kind of an expensive option for a programmer that does a very limited amount of stuff. I guess that they can get away with charging $150 for something like this, and of course you're saving $150 because we listed at $300. Yeah, okay. Whatever. But of course they do still have support for some of the older devices here as well. They still have the software for the let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here we go. They do still carry the software for the older Willem devices, and some of the newer stuff as well. For example, this is for the old Willem devices right here, and as you can see, that's from October 1st of 2005. Of course, they've also got some other things here, and I think that they also offer software for like the pick kit, and they have a version of AVR Studio that you can download, and a lot of software that they're hosting here that I'm not sure that they actually have the rights to host, but okay, whatever. Nobody said anything yet, I suppose. But the adapters that I have, these are the two that I have. I have this ADP-054 16-bit EEPROM adapter, and it actually works really well. I'm very happy with this, and I have another version that is an older version that was used with the Willem programmer, and I never could get that programmer to work. It was, I think, $25 off eBay, and it was absolute garbage. I don't know who ever got that thing to work, but it certainly wasn't me. But the GQ-4X with its USB support actually does really well, and it's got a huge list of supported devices. Whenever I say huge list, this is the current list of supported devices, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on. Now, granted, some of these are probably not supported as well as what they say it is. A good example would be, for example, it should actually be somewhere right around here. The 29L3211, it doesn't support that. I don't care what they say. It's either a problem with their board or a problem with their software. Some people report that they can get it to work. Some report that they can't get it to work. Some report that they think it has to do with the resistors on the board. Some suggest that it probably has to do with the chips. Sorry, I got chips from two different sources and it wouldn't program either one of them. So there are flaws, and not all of these are actually supported like they say that they are, but for the money, you're getting quite a bit here. You're getting the ability to do things that other comparable programmers are just incapable of doing. So having said that, it's definitely a good buy whenever it comes to the support for various devices. Now, having said that, the programmers are somewhat ridiculously priced. I find it very hard to believe that any adapter should cost you $30 in and of itself, because all you're doing is trying to expand your programmability for the programmer that you already have. And charging $30 for this adapter, or nearly $50 for this adapter, whenever it literally only does a few chips. It does the 29F, the 28F, the 29LV, the 29L, and then it has a 3-volt and a 5-volt option. So it literally just has a couple different chips that it actually supports. And this isn't even the right one. This isn't the one that I have at all. Now, it's very similar to this. It has all the same jumpers, and it looks like for the most part it has the same resistors and diodes, but mine also has an extra, I believe it's a resistor right here. Absolutely too much for that chip, though. I can't even begin to believe that anybody would purchase this for that amount, but I did. So I regret it now. Had I known that this thing is as problematic as it is, I wouldn't have ever bought it. But if we take a look at their eBay store, another example here. Now this is the version that comes with a adapter for the SoC 20 and the DIP 20. Yeah, I mean, it's about on par. It's about on par. Now, having said that, you know, this is really not that bad of a deal. Whenever it comes to the support that you get for various different chips, it's fantastic. I'm mostly complaining because it won't program the chips that they say it will. But I'm actually very happy with this programmer overall. It's been a very dependable programmer. I've had it for about 4 years now, and I'm very, very happy with it. So if you're looking at getting an entry-level programmer, this one's probably not a bad buy. So let's talk a little bit about the adapters. So the biggest complaint that I have about these adapters is that they're so clunky. I don't really have another name for it. And what I mean by that is the adapter has this this row of headers here that's meant to simulate a 0.6 inch chip, and it stacks in and it closes down on the socket here. The socket closes down on it, but then it hangs out here, and it's kind of heavy, and this causes some problems with the contact of the pins. Now, this one is not quite as bad, but as I mentioned before, I can't get this one to work. So, as far as I'm concerned, this one's a complete dud. This one, on the other hand, other than that, it actually works really well. The craftsmanship of it's really well is really good as well. It actually does have a really nice board layout. They put a lot of thought into this. However, the programmer itself, I figured that they would at least have added support to where you wouldn't have needed this 16-bit programmer. I don't understand why they wouldn't have just incorporated a DIP 48 socket instead of just a DIP 40 socket, and thereby not even needing this. But for the extra $30 that you're going to spend trying to get this particular programmer to 16-bit compatibility, it's not really that much. You're looking at a total cost of about $135 overall. And I think that you can actually buy the GQ-4X with this board for about $115, either on their website or from the eBay store. Now, having said that, overall, I'm going to give the programmer about an 8 out of 10. Like I mentioned before, it really is a true value for your money considering what it offers compared to what many other programmers offer. It is a little bit more expensive. Yes, you can get a Mini Pro for, I think anywhere between $40 to $60 nowadays. I'm not quite sure what their prices are, but this has a lot more supported devices, and it actually offers things that the Mini Pro just doesn't. The 16-bit support being a big feature that it's really hard to do those, to write to those chips unless you have some type of high-end programmer. And for what this costs, it's definitely worth the money. So having said that, that's all for today. I do want to give a shout out to Ben Heck. You're going to be missed quite a bit by the community. I know one of the reasons why I got into this hobby was because of the Ben Heck show, and I'm going to be honest with you, he really has been kind of an inspiration. I've liked the show, and I'm sad to see him go, but I wish him the best, and I guess that Element 14 is going to be doing something with the remnants of the audience. So farewell, Ben Heck. Thanks for watching the video. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to subscribe and see more videos like this, obviously hit subscribe. Check out the website retrodepot.net, and obviously if you have any thing to comment or add to this discussion, comments are below, and we'll see you next week.